Seeing none, we'll move on. Minutes approval, meeting of 11/20/2023.
I move to approve the minutes of the select board meeting of November 20th, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Item 5 is announcements and correspondence.
Payments?
Oh, sorry. Item 4 is select board pay orders.
I move to approve the pay orders for payroll and accounts payable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 5, announcements and correspondence.
I've got a few things. One, second. The first Monday of January is New Year's Day. And there are 5 Mondays in the month of January. So I'll look to include in the next meeting proposal to move the regular meetings to the 2nd and the 4th.
Yes, which I already had scheduled because Martin Luther King Day is also a regular meeting.
Right, so we need to look at the schedule at the next meeting. I just didn't get it on the agenda this time.
That'll be the morning.
Right, and we experienced a little bit of flooding in one of the bathrooms of the town hall. We had thought they had that fixed. And it was a vertical crack in the foundation that got repaired. But we need to I think we need to open up the wall and see.
Was it a freeze up?
Not a
Shouldn't
plumbing
be.
leak.
Shouldn't be. No, not that wall, there's no piping in that wall, it's a drainage issue somewhere. Lastly, Goodwill Bridge is now open, I think as of today, maybe yesterday, so that's a good thing. Correspondence in your meeting packet is first is a notice to the town of local option taxes having been collected. 34 returns were processed, collecting $8,354.50, in which the town received $5,706. So we get a little bit of a haircut from the state. Excuse my coughing. Lastly, there's a letter of thanks from the West River Montessori School for the town's annual appropriation.
Item 5, announcements and correspondence. Or no, item 6, sorry, visitors, concerned citizens.
Come up there, or just...
Just speak up.
Oh,
Right there.
okay, I'll try. Tell me if I'm not... So my name's Will Greer. I'm from the town of Bennington. I'm a field organizer with Flavors Cook Kids Vermont. Higher? Okay. My name's Will Greer, and I'm from the town of Bennington. I'm a field organizer with Flavors Cook Kids Vermont. I came here today just to speak with you guys about kind of the issue that's going on in our state and just to provide a few little facts and statistics that might interest people here and people online.
Can you say the name of the organization again,
Yep.
slower? I'm not hearing
Flavors
it.
Cook Kids Vermont.
Start again.
Flavors Cook Kids Vermont. So we're talking
Flavors
about...
Cook.
Yeah.
Kids Vermont.
Yeah.
Flavors Cook.
Flavors Cook.
Yeah.
Flavors Hook.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's with the Coalition for Tobacco Free Vermont as well. We're not the same organization, of course, but we all
I get
work
you. Now I know
together.
what you're talking about.
So the 3 statistics that I find interesting is that 28% of Vermont youth use smoking or e-cigarette products in total, which is over a quarter of our state's youth. A third of high schoolers that use e-cigarettes are frequent daily users. So out of that 28%, we have a habitual user population of about a third of that. And then we have almost 90% citing flavors and flavored tobacco products as the primary driver to their frequent usage. So we're seeing that flavored tobacco products are causing more people to enter the market for big tobacco. So I can give you my email address for anyone that's interested in this issue and this cause. You can join our email list, or you can take action and sign our petition. So my email is William, W-I-L-L-I-A-M, Greer, G-R-E-E-R-V-T, as in Vermont, and then @gmail.com. And I'll answer I don't think anyone can ask me questions during public comment, but thank you for letting me speak.
Did you know that Massachusetts outlawed flavored tobacco?
Yes, so that is the state that we're trying to model right now. So we've changed the bill a little bit right now that's in the legislature. That's S18. That's kind of the primary result that will come out of what we're doing right now here in Southern Vermont. The bill in tobacco, in Massachusetts on tobacco is a little different though, so we're not going to have as much producer, well, I want to say we're putting producer responsibility as the main part of enforcement, but we're not going to be enforcing the bill as strictly as Massachusetts does. At least that's the way the language is written. So that was part of kind of our big thing that's different with Massachusetts. And I believe we're going to be the 6th state to do this if we actually get it passed and through the legislature. And it's a bipartisan issue as well. So some states that are on both sides of the fence.
So how do Vermont statistics compare nationwide
So-
in those 3 categories?
I don't have the exact ranking on me, but I believe we're the 13th highest state, so kind of definitely above average. But don't quote me on that 100%, but we're definitely above the average.
Will, do you work with the collaborative at all?
Yes, so I've spoken with Alice, Natalie, Phil Pott, and many others at the collaborative. They've been amazing. They're doing great work in the schools independently of our stuff, but it's great to have their support as well on this, as well as I'm trying to think of how many we have in Southern Vermont right now. I think the total statewide is around 40 organizations, so we have good track records with people.
Great.
I'm good.
Good,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. I got an email from William Freeman of the New Thought Foundation or something, and there's a meeting that hopefully you all know about already on Thursday about mitigation with state officials. I'll make sure that you get the email. I think I went to Sharon, and I'm surprised she didn't let you guys know about it. Looks like a really good meeting.
Emailing.
Pardon?
Will's gonna email everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know where that is?
It's on Thursday at 4 at the Walker Farm.
Okay.
Is that a piggyback on today's meeting?
It's for officials only, it's kind of an invite only. They're trying to keep it down to about 40 people. But there are like 3 state officials that'll be there.
Is it related to assistance to towns or assistance to individuals?
It's related to Weston, Londonderry, and one other town. It's not Jamaica, but
It's Weston, Londonderry, and Ludlow.
Ludlow.
It's town officials, and it's to talk about mitigation and resiliency work. Doug Farnham, Stephanie Smith, and John Grover Campbell, I believe, are gonna be there, and somebody else maybe, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember. And the Windsor County senators and myself, and that might be it for state officials.
Is that, have anything to do with the meeting that was today also? Is it?
I don't know what meeting you were talking about today. The thing that I texted you about,
Yes.
that's exactly it.
Okay,
But it's not today.
but it's not today, so I didn't miss it.
It's on the 7th.
No.
You didn't miss it, yeah.
That's
No, it wasn't today.
I can't make it
That's
Thursday meeting. You're right.
Yeah, I can potentially make it next week. Today,
It's this coming
This
Thursday?
coming Thursday.
Yeah, I can't make that unfortunately.
I'll make it.
Thank you, Kelly.
thank you.
Alright. Moving on to item 7, town official business. 7A, planning commission award contract for South Village Main Street Study Master Plan.
So the planning commission finished the meeting, and at the meeting, the planning commission accepted the proposed contract with Stevens and Associates, who helped us with the North Main Street Master Plan. And we it was accepted to begin as soon as possible, once a few questions were clarified, minor details, but we would like to move forward with that.
I understand the North Dairy survey, but what do we expect to get out of this one for the South Dairy? I mean, we don't have a huge commercial base, you know, just residents and all.
It's not a huge commercial base, but it is one of our historic villages, And within the confines of that, there are a few businesses. We're thinking that things like the sidewalks could be rebuilt, street lights, just get a sense of the flair of the South Village. The real, the greatest feature, I think, and reason to do this is that in the South Village, there is a town road through most of the village rather than a state highway. So we don't have those sort of issues when we think about how to revitalize a bit. So that's kind of it generally. And a lot of the building, I think there are actually quite a few buildings, many of them are private and not public buildings or businesses yet, but hopefully it can open the door at least to get things fixed up. And there's quite a bit going on with individual property owners
Yes,
in the
there
South Village right now to rebuild. Hopefully it'll be worthwhile for them, and we can maybe be helpful.
Nice to see new paint on some of those houses.
Yeah, exactly, totally. Thanks for your
Sharon,
question.
I'm sure there's going to be a huge emphasis with the flooding and all that happened. I think that will be exciting to see what, there could be some new possibilities with that in the forefront of everyone's mind.
Absolutely. It hasn't left us yet. That'll probably be the base of anything that's considered or discussed.
Sharon, remind me the amount that we allocated or we had made available for this
For the
study?
study?
Yeah.
I think there's 22,000 that goes to the consultant, and then the 3,000 is paid. That's our portion.
So the
Is that right,
proposal is
Shane?
within our
The
budget?
grant is 22,000, and we have to.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we have to make a local match of 10, I think it is.
Oh, I didn't know it was that much. But we do have to make a local match.
Percent, I mean.
Yeah.
I
So
can
are
look
we
it
in the
up.
ballpark? I mean, is this, with this
I think the
proposal?
total was 25, wasn't it?
Yeah,
With the match.
the grant was granted.
I think the proposal looks fine. I just want to make sure that it's within
Yeah, I think we have,
the budgetary
yeah,
amounts that we all approved.
there's some in the planning commission budget itself of that project.
Is the cost of the 26,260, is that the total cost of services?
Oh, that must be it.
Yeah,
So that probably does divide it within the Shane had to say.
the local match needs to be 2,636, and we get 22. So it's only 24,636.
We budgeted 3,000 for a match.
So we'll exceed the match.
So it's what?
We'll exceed the match. So if you got 3,000, that's 26,000, so that's all we have.
It's only $260 over that, though.
Oh,
the
okay.
Right, so
cost.
we'll pare it back. As long as it just needs to meet the budget.
Yeah.
Quick question. Is South Londonderry considered like from the Prouty land south? Is that kind of a dividing line?
Yes, for this.
Because there are some businesses in the school and everything along Route 100 there, which will be included.
Right.
Thank you.
Bruce, we purposefully wanted the Prouty land to be a part of this conversation, just to see what what its potential could be.
So that'll be part of the South Londonderry study?
Yes,
Sounds good.
that's correct, right, Sharon, if I recall?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I move it?
Yep.
Okay. I move to accept a proposal from Stevens and Associates to provide consultant services for the South Village Main Street Study and Master Plan, which is funded by a municipal planning grant awarded by the Vermont Department of Housing and Community Development, and to authorize the town administrator to execute all necessary documents to employ this consultant, including a service contract, after review by the town attorney.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
7B, Planning Commission, reappointment of administrative officer for 24 VSA 4448A.
The Planning Commission happily and unanimously approved a motion to recommend Will Goodwin as part-time zoning administrator and floodplain administrator for the town of Londonderry. Is there a specific term on that should be mentioned?
3 years.
3 years by statute.
For a period of 3 years per statute.
Are you ready for that?
Is Will agreeable to this?
I would,
Before we hog tie him and throw him in the truck?
He attended the meeting today,
He did.
and I wasn't there for it, but
And we didn't discuss it much, so he was kind of still there when we made the motion, so.
Great.
There wasn't any contention about that at all.
I guess we can appoint him and he can decline if he chooses, right?
I think he's planning on showing up
He
Wednesday.
indicated.
Move it quick before he decides differently.
I would move in keeping with Title 24 VSA 4448A to reappoint William Goodwin as the town's administrative officer to provide zoning administrator and floodplain administrator services, a part-time position working an average of 20 hours per week.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Will.
7C, Village Wastewater Committee, project update.
Okay, I'm just going to start quickly with an announcement that the timing of the next public meeting for information for the wastewater project is now scheduled for January 10th at here in this room. We're going to use the stage, basically, I guess, and talking to Tina, it seems like we can get up to maybe 60 chairs here if that were to happen. So rather than have it at Floodbrook, this time we'll have that public information meeting here in the assembly room. We really hope that as many select board members as possible would be able to attend on that date. We think that it would be meaningful, not just for personal information, but for the residents to be able to see how the select board is responding to what we're dealing with right now and answer. We'll have Chrissy, who's here tonight, to talk with you first about the program that we're going to present, and there'll be a lot of advertisement and outreach in advance. So we hope we have a good turnout. We're getting further into the project, and it's more and more necessary to get things underway, if not completed, as soon as possible before we lose the grant or any part of it that we were awarded for the project. So I'm going to let Chrissy take it from here, give you a snapshot of things that have happened more recently and what the meaning of that is for us.
Good evening. I'm going to talk a little bit, mostly about our schedule and what we're looking to you all for. So I think everybody received our little memo and critical path timeline. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I'm sure you've all read it. But just a few highlights. So about a month ago, we did get notified that we have to have our preliminary engineering report, or PER, 90% done by February 1st. So that really kicked things into high gear. We committed to getting the 60% done by the end of December. And that's one of the milestones in getting to the 90%. We have to have a 60% report and a 60% public meeting. So we're gonna have that done by the end of this December, in preparation for that January 10th meeting. And that'll be the public meeting to present the report. The report at 60% focuses mostly on the alternatives. So we'll be looking to present the alternatives that we've identified and evaluated to date. And cost estimates will be included. So that's a big thing that I know the public has been really looking for. So we will have those as part of the 60% and presented in January. In that January meeting, we need, as part of the process, we need to get basically a select board endorsement. Now, that is not committing you at all to moving forward at any point in the future. It's basically just showing that there is town support for the concept. At any point down the line, you may decide that it's not affordable or it's just not going to work for this town, and that's fine because it's not a commitment at all. But we do need an endorsement to show that there is town support for the project and for moving forward. So that is just to reiterate what Sharon was saying about having as many of you as possible attend that meeting. It will be a hybrid meeting, right? So if you can't make it in person, we will have a virtual option. So just making sure as many people as possible can attend that, and we don't necessarily need any sort of endorsement at that meeting, but shortly thereafter is when we'd be looking for that. Because as I noted, we need 90% report by February 1st. With this all moving forward a lot faster now, there's going to be a lot of conversations that the committee, the wastewater committee, is going to have in the next 2 months as we move into the 90% report. These are discussions about how the system is going to be paid for if it does go to construction and how it might be managed via ordinance. And so one of the things that was discussed in one of the last meetings was having a select board liaison, if possible, to attend the committee meetings, the wastewater committee meetings. It would be great to have a select board voice in those discussions, because that ultimately will all fall to you as a board to make those decisions. The committee can talk about different alternatives and make a recommendation to the board, but ultimately how the town pays for things and how you manage and create ordinances is a select board responsibility. And of course, ultimately, there will be votes down the line for bond votes or, actually doing the financial, how to pay for it. But these are just talking about the concepts of how to pay for it. So if anybody is interested in that and could attend some of our committee meetings, I think the committee would greatly appreciate that. I think it would help you all stay up to speed a little bit more as we move a lot faster in the next 2 months. And then the last thing I wanted to note was regarding the North Village. The sites that we've looked at in the North Village are not providing the capacity we were hoping for. And in general, we're really not finding a whole lot of capacity. Certainly not enough to serve the entire, village area, the North Main Street strip. And so we would be looking at, we would have to really reduce that service area and really prioritize properties. So, one of the things the state has suggested, basically if we can't find something to move forward with and get to construction and get construction completed by fall of 2026, you will lose all the North Village money. And I will note that North Village and South Village money are completely separate. You can lose one and keep the other. They're completely separate projects in the eyes of the state. So if we don't do something in the North Village, if we don't change how we're approaching the North Village, you'll likely lose all the money in the North Village, because we're not going to be able to commit to getting a project into construction with the path that we've been evaluating. So what the state has suggested is that they could amend, well, I don't even think it's an amendment at this point, because I don't believe you guys have signed a grant agreement yet. Is that correct, Shane?
I don't know.
For the ARPA grant.
There are some documents we've signed, but I don't know if we have committed to the funds yet. I don't know.
They put together a scope for your ARPA grant, and the state has proposed that they can change that scope to put you in a different direction, to look more at cluster systems, which are smaller systems that are going to serve 2 to 5 properties maybe. And those could utilize existing septic systems with some improvements to them. And so it's not looking at a big community system or multiple community systems, it's just much smaller cluster systems. But that requires a different approach in planning. And so the state has indicated they could redo the scope to step back again and kind of not entirely restart the planning process, but just take a step backwards in the planning process. So that's something that I think the state's going to be talking with Shane about and how to proceed with that. So just wanted to give you an update on that. That way you wouldn't lose all of your money, you might lose some of it, because we would do a new cost estimate, and anything over that new cost estimate would be reallocated to some other project in the state.
And by going to the smaller cluster systems, do they recalibrate the deadline dates because you're having to now plan a whole different approach, or are we still stuck with those deadline dates that came with the original grant?
You are stuck with those original deadline dates. That is fixed unless the federal government changes them.
Okay.
Those were set, the deadline of December 31st, 2026 was set by the federal government. Now, they may extend that, but we don't know that.
Okay.
So it's going to be utilizing as much of the ARPA money as you can before that deadline hits.
And can you accomplish the same overall goal with the smaller decentralized that you had originally thought you could get with the bigger systems? Or are we going to be looking at a reduced capacity for the North Village if we go to these decentralized clusters or whatever you're calling them?
So going to the smaller decentralized, cluster systems we're really going to be looking there at getting septic systems out of the floodplain, out of the floodway, maybe providing some increased capacity where possible for buildings that are underutilized to allow them to be fully utilized. It'll be looking at things like that, and it's really going to depend on how many property owners are interested. It's a very property owner outreach intensive system.
Signed agreement on the ARPA funding.
I know this messaging is not great news for the North Village, right, in terms of any kind of future, well, any kind of advancement in terms of business development growth up there, right, at this point. And if anything, a decline going forward, because as systems fail, you can only rebuild to what it is, right?
And then what's the likelihood of selling those properties who maybe have a failure and are forced into a best fit situation? What's their resale ability?
I know they can be resold. There was actually what was D&K's over in Jamaica. They had a failed system. It was replaced 10 years ago or so, and then the property was sold a couple of years ago, and it has actually failed again now and has been replaced again. So it didn't stop that property from being sold. So they can sell it. It's just you're stuck with that capacity. You can't get any more capacity.
Understood. I guess, this kind of goes, if we just rewind for a moment and talk about the South Village Study and Master Plan, we did all that work for the North Village Master Plan, which was super exciting and gave us all a lot of hope. And then now to hear that the North Village, that the possibilities really aren't there, it's kind of disappointing.
It's very disappointing. If we look back at, the picture of the village that was the outcome, I was thinking about it just in the last couple of weeks or so. The drawing for the future kind of crunched businesses toward the bridge and the shopping center, and left green space, in the upper end, which is playing out now.
Right.
As being a spot, but, and also, we've had the occurrence of flood, and how many of the businesses incorporated flood mitigation when they recovered and put things back together. There's not a clear indication of any of that. So it's hard to know where that's gonna go. But there's a lot of talk about it now, and it's certainly a part of every discussion we're gonna have. For every project we have going. Can't do anything without thinking about that.
Right. So I guess my question is, I know you want endorsement from the select board, but isn't the formation of the village wastewater committee enough of an endorsement from the select board? I mean, we have the committee formed. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're looking for when you say you want an endorsement.
I can follow up with the state. I know in general, they just want to know that the governing body of the town is supporting the concept.
Well, I think if we weren't supporting it, we wouldn't have formed the committee.
Yeah, can't we just accept a report? I mean, it's more about just being party and in concert with you as you continue to do your work. Your work may end up with, not 100% of what we'd originally thought, but maybe it's going to be 50%, or maybe it's going to be 10%, I don't know. But if we accept your report, we're with you in the process. We need to know. I mean, we can't not do this and put our heads in the sand, literally.
And that's exactly what it is. I think it's just accepting the 60% report,
Yeah.
and we just continue moving forward.
And I think that would probably also give an indication in some way that it's not just the committee that's working on this, but that the select board did form it and is following and, moving along with the findings. No one's making decisions really at this point. But
Right.
as far as the community and property owners and you know, how, what would it say to them to know that back and forth conversation and the acceptance of pieces of the work are happening without a commitment still, because we don't have enough information.
I think it would be appropriate for a select board liaison on the committee, and I think that would also show an endorsement.
That would, for sure. And it could even be intermittently. I mean, it doesn't have to be the same person all the time.
I'm happy to tag team with somebody who wants to,
I would tag team with you, unless, gentlemen,
unless, you know, what do you guys?
here's the ring. No, you had.
I think you guys beat us to it.
I couldn't take it on solely, but
I
I'd be
couldn't
happy
either,
to
but
tag.
yeah, if we share
If
it
we
or
shared it,
something,
if-
yeah,
That's
That would
right.
be very great.
yeah.
But I think if you're gonna have a liaison from the select board, you're gonna have to have your meetings on a set date and stay to that date, because you keep moving your meetings around.
Well, do we
Every
ask,
meeting you've had lately has been a special meeting, which is just wrong.
do
Some of
we,
them have been warned as special meetings and then they've not happened.
I know,
Or-
you cancel half your meetings too.
Sorry?
You cancel half your meetings too.
Let's,
When they weren't warned properly, we had to do that. There was no other intention.
do we ask other committees to hold their meetings at the same time every
Right.
month?
They don't ask for select board
Most of
to go
them
on.
do.
Well,
First order of business of any new board is to establish its regular meetings.
regular meetings.
And I think you owe it to the public to keep your schedule.
I'm not disagreeing with you, I just want to make sure if we're going to hold one committee to a standard, then all of the committees should be held to the same standard.
We do have one standard, and that is first Fridays and third Tuesdays of the month.
That was voted by the committee.
Yes,
And third Tuesdays?
yes.
First Friday is 9 AM, third Tuesday is 6 PM.
Bless you. Is 6 PM?
Yes.
Well. Okay. What time is your special meeting on January 10th? Do you know yet? The January 10th meeting, the public engagement meeting?
No, I don't exactly.
Okay.
I expect it would be probably 6 o'clock. 6 or 6:30, an evening meeting to draw in as many people as are available.
Other questions? So I just want to confirm with regard to the strategic plan for North Main, it even possibly rules out some of the options that you were recommending, which was taking trees off of Main Street and putting them down Route 100. That would be off the table, so to speak.
I don't, is anything going to be?
I mean, I wasn't involved in the master planning, so I don't know the details about that, but I don't think, nothing's entirely off the table, and if some property owner in the North Village did show up and say, hey, I'm interested in having my property evaluated, that's something that certainly can be done. We're not ruling anything out, but in order to meet the report deadlines at this point, we have to draw a line and move forward with what we have right now.
I have a question. Do we need to get an appraiser on board for any of the properties? We haven't done that solicitation yet.
The one that we know the most about, the one that's most realistic right now is Proudy, so that one's already town-owned. But in the next week or two, we're gonna be doing test pits at some additional privately owned properties, and once we get that information, I can let you know.
We should probably go out, get someone on board ahead of time, so we can jump right at it. Can the town, if the town donates property to the project, can we take that as a credit for local match? I'm thinking about the Proudy land.
I would have to ask Emily that.
We might as well get that appraised and take that as a credit.
Any other questions or comments?
It's not appear so.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
For all your work,
Yes.
guys.
You guys work very hard and we appreciate it.
All right, moving on to 7D, town treasurer, year-to-date budget review.
I won't take you too much of your time. The budget's on track except for the $450,000 we've spent so far on
Flood.
flood repairs.
Didn't you say that was more like 800 now?
Well, yeah, as of tonight, it's almost 900,000.
Okay. You want to take that?
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna check my calendar.
so if anybody has any questions at any time, let me know.
But we are beginning the drawdown reimbursement process now. But we will have to borrow
Maybe,
internally, probably.
maybe.
She can fix it.
My hope is not to borrow.
Yeah.
See how quickly it returns.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item 8A is transfer station solid waste management updates. The only update I have is the rats got at the wires again for the
Third time?
third time, yeah. So I'm probably gonna go there tomorrow and see if I can't make like a wire cage around these wires or something, I don't know. But it's good.
What on?
Rats. Ever since the flood, I mean, we've always had rats.
Right.
But ever since the flood, it seems to have pushed rats up from the river.
River rats.
They're everywhere now.
Yeah, Chris has got them.
Yeah.
Not when the place is open.
So
Right.
I'll
but
see
it's
if I
not
can.
on Wednesday.
find something to do.
Is Vermont Pest Control, have they begun their efforts?
Yep, they've begun, but they said it would take up to a month or so before it really took effect. So,
Not to upset anybody who are friends of the rodents, but can't you just shoot them?
That's what I heard.
Do.
I mean,
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
I mean, Tom, I know you can shoot,
Yeah.
We used to shoot them.
Select board chair, what?
right?
they have been known to before.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like, they only need like a tablespoon of water to like thrive.
Yeah, but honestly, you don't.
They're not easy to get
You
rid
don't
of.
see them that much. That's the hard part.
Just gotta go
They're
at night.
underground.
Gotta go at night.
They don't have lights.
Can you imagine somebody shooting a gun at night?
Creepy. This is
Around
As
here?
long as we let people know.
On town property? Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just saying,
I mean,
sorry.
it sounds like fun,
I
but
I redact everything, I'm taking it all back, putting it all back in,
You're
sorry.
talking about the good old days.
Right?
I know. keep-
Rats and TV.
I would almost sign up for that, but.
Right? I mean, it's like
A
sport.
nighttime
You're gonna
rat
have to
hunt?
post a meeting.
I'm in.
At least the night vision though.
Used to be fun.
All right, sorry, I derailed us, sorry.
Moving on to item 9, roads and bridges. 9A is updates and storm damage recovery.
I have some notes from Josh on fuel and salt and sand. October transfer station was 140 gallons. October equipment was 647 gallons. November fuel was, the equipment was 837 gallons and the generator was 10 gallons. November salt usage was 70 tons and November sand was 185 yards. And then,
That didn't do anything.
right, we're in it, that's happening. As Shane mentioned, Goodaville Road is open and getting down to the last project, which is Rose Road, which I believe may be getting started here pretty quick. Um,
And the barricades on that hill.
The waste blocks were placed on Edge Hill in a similar location to where we're proposing to put guardrails when time and money permitting, so probably after next July. But an effort was made anyway, based on a promise, I guess, or an intention that that was barricaded at the road level.
Probably should have been included in the scope of work. We missed it.
Yeah, we did talk about it, and it didn't end up in the engineer's scope of work, so. But it was quickly taken care of this past week, so.
Can those be a permanent solution, those big boulders or whatever, the blocks?
These are cement blocks. They're
Right, I
one
mean, can that be a permanent solution?
I mean, I think in many areas around the state, they're becoming permanent,
Right,
even
I mean,
though
they're-
the intention is less, but
Yeah.
the reality is, yes.
Yeah.
I think if they were to be intended to be permanent, maybe some more would be added, or just,
Right.
they would have been included, but the idea now is just to have a placeholder.
Some barricade.
Yeah. So without without a lot of thought going into it, it was taken care of just as a temporary thing.
Great.
They can be reused.
Yep, the town will own them. If we do remove them, we'll have them in inventory, so. Which seems like this summer we needed them 3 times at a minimum, so. They're not a lot of money, but just moving them around is a process, but it's nice to have them on hand, so. Spring Hill and Collar Ridge Bridge and Edge Hill, there's always gonna be some way to use them, so. That's about all I have, except for what else is on the agenda.
Alright. And we'll move on to 9B, access permit 2023-04, Middletown Road, parcel 0620001.000.
So we're kind of, I'm not sure what the terminology is, but we have to make a decision, I guess, based on a lack of response to the request. I think as of right now, they're technically, it's not really in compliance, so we wouldn't necessarily be able to approve nothing has really changed with the application and the work that was completed since it was done before they applied in retrospect. So if we do approve it, I think we're letting up on what we have regulated, or what we have as our requirements. The culvert size being the main one. So, I mean, I guess it's one of those things, I could try again to reach out to them, I just didn't get a response.
Should we send them a certified letter?
I wouldn't want you to let this go by the way at a inappropriate sized culvert. I mean, I think they need to.
Well, and I think it's, without making a mountain out of a molehill, it's really not a big deal for what they need to do. I think it could potentially be just a communication problem at this point. I'm not sure why they didn't respond, what their intention would be. If their intention would be to, oh yeah, we didn't see the email and we would happily do the work, or maybe it's otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah.
Without any communication, it's hard to understand where the problem lies. I think it's my perception that if we approve it, we're allowing something that doesn't meet the standards. So,
Great. I guess that's where.
I think certified mail is the best option. We know they got it. We don't hear from them.
Is this going to their
It's Tom.
primary residence, the mail? This is not the primary residence.
They don't.
They don't live there.
No.
I didn't mail them anything.
It'll probably be mailed to wherever.
There is a Gmail. I mean, she's.
Right, the email that I sent, it was an email, to be clear. It was not,
Yeah.
I didn't have any other.
But
type
you're
of
not getting any
communication.
response from that?
Do we have a primary address for them?
Yeah, when we send the tax bill.
So we can just, I
Yeah, send it
agree
there.
with Tom, send it certified,
Yeah.
and we know they've received it.
And if
And
we
I-
don't hear back, then we have to take another course of action.
I think there's a few things at play, and it's, that's sort of the balancing act, is it's not like a critical culvert that's gonna wash out the whole village if it doesn't get changed. But it could be precedent setting in the sense that,
Somebody
you know,
else.
if we choose to enforce our rules, then, you know, here's an example of
If you
not
don't,
letting
you're
it
gonna
fly.
say, well, you didn't do
Yeah,
it there, why should I have to
That's
do
the
it?
problem.
Right.
And not prevention, they put the permit in after they did the work. So.
Well, and the issue, and just to be more clear about that too, there are other people around town that replaced their culvert for their main entrance of their driveway that, you know, it was an 18-inch, they put an 18-inch, but it meets the standard. So it's not really as much of a problem with the permit as it is with meeting the standard. So other people didn't necessarily get a new permit, they have their permit in place already. This is a secondary access on one property that doesn't meet the standard. So that's what makes it different from other people that have replaced their culverts without going through the permit
But
process.
the standard is the minimum. It could be that, in fact, replacing with an 18 is not appropriate. It should be a larger one. So I think the town needs to make that call, not necessarily the individual.
And I think this application is a mechanism for communication about that. It's an opportunity to get it right.
Yes.
So, you know, doesn't mean it's a big deal, but it means that had we been able to talk about it, they would have known what they should have done
Correct.
the first go-round.
Right.
So I think, you know, I guess I'm saying all that to try to avoid making an example out of it but it's different in that way, that it's not just replacing a driveway culvert. There's a few other things at play, so.
Taylor, would you like, write a letter that the two of us could sign and send off?
Sure, I mean, I could.
You and Josh, whatever you want to do.
No, I'm happy to
participate.
work with you on that, and I mean, I could even start with an additional email, or, just getting no response makes it curious what the situation is, so. Either way, if we make an attempt, an additional attempt before approving it, and then we'll figure out what the problem is.
My question is this something Will should be sending an email on? Or,
Well, it does beg a question, because one of the, I've been handling them since I've been here, but if you look at the statutes on the administrative assistant, who is not administrative officer, that's the zoning administrator, they are supposed to be the person who handles all permitting for the town. And I think it would be great if he took it over, because I've got plenty of other things to be doing.
Yeah,
Happy to do
and
that way.
the response that I sent, I realized afterwards I hadn't included you, but I did include Tom and Will and the Coopers. So,
I'm happy to take my name off that and put Will in instead.
I feel
Yeah, I
like
mean, I think
that's
that's fine,
appropriate,
too.
right?
yeah, and I can reach out to Will and just see if he heard anything back individually. I didn't hear directly from them. Maybe they spoke with him and he and I
Right.
missed. I'm not sure. I think it's more of a communication breakdown than much of anything else. So my feeling would be pass over the approval at this point and just try to figure it out. And I'll reach out to Will as well, just to get together on it.
Sounds good. And we'll move on to 9C, approved contract for garage door maintenance at town highway garage.
It's an annual thing that we started, I think last year was the first year. And as far as I know, it works out pretty well. And Josh has sent it over my way to bring to the board.
Yep, I think it makes sense to do that.
Last thing you want is the door not to open when you need it to open most.
How many doors are they looking at?
It's 3 of them.
Is it 3?
Five.
And they go up and down every day?
More than
Yeah, The garage
No,
is
it's
the
Very big, they're big
5.
doors.
There's 5, and then the ones over here as well.
Are these included in the maintenance agreement? So,
So-
yeah, it's 9 or 10 doors.
All good, have them on speed dial.
These are the more problematic.
Yeah.
Electronics, yeah. Well, and I think it's one of those things that's often overlooked, and it is a little bit of a technical thing, that not everybody has natural skills for garage doors, so there's some
Right.
safety
The
involved
last
with
thing you
it.
want is to not be able to open the door on a snowy day.
Yeah, it's just supposed to work.
Yeah, you don't have to drive through them.
Yeah.
How does their rate compare to last year's?
The same.
Same?
They're not a whole
Yeah,
lot
they
of
didn't change it.
choices.
They held the same
Held the
rate.
same? Cool.
Anyone care to make that?
I'll do it. I move to, 1, accept the proposal from Overhead Door Company of Rutland for an annual planned maintenance of garage doors at the town garage for 2024 is submitted, and authorize the town administrator to sign any documents necessary for the hiring of the firm to conduct the necessary work.
Second.
Here we go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, moving on to item 10, old business. 10A, consider adoption of an ordinance regulating short-term rentals.
So everyone got the email that I sent, I'm hoping, and that you all had some time to look over some of the ideas that we have. Patty and I and Mimi had gotten together and had some more conversation on some of the language and some things that we were originally thinking maybe getting kicked out, putting them back but in a different way. Patty's here tonight, thank goodness, because my brain is a little mushy, so she can hopefully help answer some questions if you all have any. I mean, the biggest thing that I think we all agreed upon is that we're not looking to, and then these are in your words, Tom, that we'd just like to put some reasonable limits on short-term rentals. We're going, allowing for second homes to operate as STRs, but to limit the number of STRs to prevent properties from investment rather than residence or vacation purposes. So, at some point, we probably are gonna need to determine what the number might be. We've talked about, once the ordinance goes into place and the registration is active, actually having a good idea for what is out there. And, maybe that's where we put some caps on how many can be in certain areas. Or once we know how many we have, maybe we, put a number out there, maybe with a 10% buffer, so that, somebody who was wanting to come onto the scene still could and wouldn't feel like they were penalized because of the ordinance. So, just some thoughts.
The gentleman who came and he had a large tract of land. If he subdivided his land, he could have 2 on each lot, right?
He's already done that.
He's already done that?
Yeah, most of his land is subdivided where he's putting his lots.
So, we can go through it again, line by line, and spend a lot of time on it. My thought was getting this out ahead of the meeting. You all would have a chance to really look it over and maybe lob some ideas at us, as opposed to starting over again.
I think if we could go through it and tick off from easiest to hardest, let's tick off the easy ones, like the word lessee or the lease.
There's only a couple of changes, right?
Right, and to be perfectly honest, I had trouble figuring out which was B and which was
Well,
version A and version B.
so,
It's
so-
7B is the one we want to look at, right?
That's the one that you distributed.
Yes.
And 7 is the one in the packet.
it's in the packet.
Are there material differences between the two, or should we go and look right now at 7B?
Well, we can look at them side by, if you want, because they're pretty, so,
And it starts in the meeting packet,
page 43, right?
Right.
So if you take 43, page 43, you take the first page of the email that was sent, and you line them up, we're gonna be on Article 3, definitions. So basically, what we've added, and I hope you all don't mind if I give Patty free rein to kind of jump in here if I'm missing anything.
Please, do it, yeah.
But it looks like we added living in the same household to help define family member better. And a corporation, partnership, limited liability company, or other LLCs with overlapping members, all of which shall be deemed operator, but which shall exclude from the definition any tenant or lessee of a lease. So this,
I can jump in here.
yes, please jump in.
There were some questions about, concerns about tenants coming in for,
Subletting.
and subletting
Yeah.
their units as short-term rentals. And this essentially excludes tenants from being operators.
Yep.
So we're just trying to kind of close that loophole that could be found and worked through,
I think that's fine.
was the idea behind that. So,
I don't have any problem with that. Does anybody else? No? Okay.
all right, so,
So dwelling unit, right?
yes. Let me just- Sorry, nothing but here. Okay, so,
We need more colors.
yeah, page 2, dwelling unit, C. So we added additional language, which was dwelling unit means a room or rooms connected together containing cooking, sanitary, and sleeping facilities that constitute a separate independent housekeeping establishment. It shall include prefabricated modular units and mobile homes, but shall not include a motel, boarding house, tourist home, shelter, or similar structure.
And I think that's fine because I see what you're trying to accomplish, which is to really make it sound like its own unit that is self-contained rather than a boarding house, which is where you've got shared kitchen stuff and that sort of thing, so, or an inn or whatever.
Yes. And it would also align, is that right, Patty, that this is the language?
With the zoning language?
With the proposed zoning.
Okay.
What, but the proposed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, the term tourist home is the only one I haven't seen anywhere else. What is tourist home?
To be honest, I have no
Farm
idea.
stay or something?
It was in the planning, it was in the zoning bylaws, so I don't. know
Is,
what that
I mean,
is.
that's not synonymous with like a second home. It's,
Is it like a hostel?
Sharon's still here?
Definition is.
Is Sharon still here?
No.
So,
I'll look it up.
Sharon might still be here and we can ask.
Let's ask Siri.
Could ask Siri.
Hey Siri, what's a tourist home?
It doesn't matter, what only matters is what's in our zoning regulations.
I thought we talked about last time though, making this on the zoning regulations we have now, because we don't know when the new zoning is actually gonna come
Well,
Right.
out.
and I heard that loud and clear. However,
Sharon's here. If you want to ask her.
okay, hang on one second, Sharon, or I'm gonna lose this thought. The ordinance will stand alone for a while. And I think we should be more forward thinking and hopeful that the zoning bylaws are going to be
Coming along.
passed.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the frame of mind that I've gotten into on this is we keep, let's just keep going. Let's get there, because this is, the zoning bylaws, they will get passed.
But we can't pass this if it doesn't have all of the right definitions prior to the changes to the zoning bylaws, right? So,
No,
You
sorry.
can approve anything you want.
As
We
of
can approve anything.
right, okay.
And well, once the select board posts notice, warrants a public hearing for the new zoning regulation, new zoning bylaw.
You gotta go up both.
You gotta run off both, actually, the proposed and the existing zoning bylaw, so it's gonna be.
For
bear.
how long?
Oh, it's like running dual systems.
It's like the grandfathering of the
When you
system?
I don't know how
software
long.
programmers.
I'm sure there's a limitation, call it 6 months, I don't know what it is, but I can look it up.
Well, and I'd like to think, and we're gonna go to Sharon, because I don't want to keep her, but I'd like to think that, we're not gonna grandfather anything on the ordinance. Like what the ordinance,
Ordinances, there's no grandfathering in an ordinance, there is in a zoning bylaw.
So,
Zoning does
if our-
allow for grandfathering.
sorry, so if our language was of the more current bylaw, then that is the language that would be enforceable for our ordinance.
For this ordinance, yeah.
Cool?
Whatever you adopt is enforceable.
Okay, so everybody kind of gets that. Sharon, we pulled a definition from the proposed new zoning bylaws that talks of a tourist home. Do you, not to put you on the spot.
I didn't hear that.
So in this short-term rental ordinance that we're working on,
Yeah.
we have some definitions for a dwelling unit. And it references a tourist home. And that's a term that we haven't heard yet as we've been working on this. And not to put you on the spot, because I'm sure you don't have that in your bag right now, but do you recall what the tourist home was referring to?
Is that in the proposed bylaw or the
Proposed,
existing?
proposed.
No, I can't recall.
So
Except-
Google says it's a private home with rooms for rent, usually for one night, for tourists, travelers, etc.
It's not in the existing zoning bylaw. I'll check and see if it's in the,
Rented on a daily or weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
That does sound traditional.
Yeah, but inn has its own definition, so it wouldn't be an inn.
Well, should we,
So it shall not include a motel, boarding house, tourist home, shelter, or similar structure. We're gonna have to look at that, I think, Patty. I'm just gonna circle,
All right,
I'm gonna
let's pass
circle,
on that
I'm gonna
one.
circle tourist home. Other than the tourist home, how does everyone feel about this language?
I think in the absence of a new set of zoning bylaws, I think this is fine. Is that the right approach?
And I think all the while keeping in mind that this can be adapted as well. Once the new zoning laws are in place, we can still update the ordinance.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a matter of 60 days, and it's gonna be
Yep.
far longer than that before we have,
Yes,
Yep.
so, new zoning. So.
okay.
I'm not seeing a definition in the new zoning regulations.
I was just gonna ask you if it was in the definitions.
Well, and it may not, I was only mentioning that because some of them were very specific, and that one just stood out as one that we hadn't really.
I was thinking that might have come from straight out of the existing bylaw.
It's not there.
No.
Well, it might just be as simple as
It was
we're omitting it.
something our consultant.
I mean, it could just be.
It's not defined.
Right,
We
just
should not
omit it.
have it.
Omit it.
Strike.
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 Okay, okay, so E,
Lot.
well, let's go to E, bed and breakfast,
No.
bed and breakfast, boarding house, motel, and inn. We added motel because it was added to the addition in the dwelling unit above. So that again is with the newer zoning language. Just to keep, we were looking for consistency, is why the word motel was added.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so F, lot. Lot means, and Patty, there's so much going on here, I'm gonna kick this one to you.
Yeah, this was one that attorneys in Shane worked on, and they just wanted to conform to existing zoning language.
So,
There's nothing new.
There's nothing new.
There's no.
Nothing
All right,
new.
let's pass it. That's fine. Yep.
okay, Okay, Article 4B.
There's something there I'd like to ask.
Okay.
It says any parcel of land undivided by a street or road. What about me? I got an acre on either side of the road. What does that mean to me? Not that I'm in the
It means that you have 2
Airbnb
lots.
business.
You have 2 lots right now,
It's 2 lots.
for zoning purposes. That was my interpretation a couple of years ago.
So it now is zoned as a separate lot across there?
Undivided, yeah. Much like your neighbor who has parking across the way, it's actually 2 lots. As far as I know, I mean, that was my interpretation.
Just for zoning purposes.
I'm not a zoning administrator.
Taxes are 1 lot, everything else is all 1 lot, but it's as it pertains to zoning and access.
Yeah, for
and-
taxes, a road does not create a subdivision for taxes.
Right, it's not
But a road does
subdivided, but
create
it's-
it for zoning purposes
Yeah.
in Londonderry.
Okay to move on, Jim?
You betcha.
B, any application made by a person other than a single individual must detail the other members of any corporation, LLC, or partnership, common ownership, and any out-of-state entity must provide a valid and current copy of the articles of organization for that entity.
That was for the attorney.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
C. All STRs must be offered via an STR rental platform to satisfy any reporting requirements and the payment of any municipal, state, and federal taxes. The operator must also have a Vermont meals and rooms tax account and post a number on any advertisements for the STR. My feeling there, I struck recommended and
Made it required.
I made it required. I feel that we should make it required because I think self-reporting is flawed. And we will have a better idea of what we have if they're forced to use one of the rental platforms, is my thought.
So one of the issues that, for example, inn owners had during COVID was that they were required to follow certain regulations because of COVID that the state required. But they said everybody else, short-term rentals, didn't have to. Does having a meals and rooms tax applied to this also mean that those short-term rentals will have the same kind of state requirements in case of another epidemic?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Shouldn't be, different departments, if you will. One's a tax matter, one's a health matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know why I'm asking it, but I remember hearing from the inn owners that they were miffed that they had to follow certain procedures and short-term rentals didn't
Well, they're
during
subject
COVID.
subject to the Department of Health in a different way
Yeah, I know.
than
Well,
short-term
inns have to
rentals.
have
Yes.
a Department of Health inspection every year.
And short-term rentals.
Sure, yeah, okay. More of an FYI, okay. I'm all right with C.
everyone's feeling okay with that.
Go for it.
Okay. D. Operators of 3 or more STRs must show proof of registration with the Corporations Division of the Office of the Vermont Secretary of State.
People think
Yeah.
that's onerous.
That gives us some help.
Well, one of the things though is that
Is
you
that,
would therefore have to incorporate in Vermont, I believe.
or at least have an
You
LLC?
would not?
You would not have to incorporate in Vermont, you would have to have a registered agent in Vermont, you'd have to register as a foreign business. You don't have to be incorporated in the state.
That's good.
Okay.
All right, I think that keeps it on the up and up overnight. E, did you want to talk about E? Yeah.
I'm not recalling the dwelling unit overnight. Did we add overnight
I
capacity?
think we did after.
We added because
Mr.
of guests.
Sanguinelli
Yes.
said, what happens if they
Yes.
spend
Steve
the night?
Ancuda
Or
recommended.
somebody
Yeah,
did, yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
okay,
was
so
fine.
that makes
That's
sense to,
Yep.
okay. I think this is going
That's it.
really well.
That's it.
All right, so then we go to K,
Okay.
yeah. Which is, hang on.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Page
Yep.
5 of 8 is Article 5. Okay.
We also have K.
Yes, I'm just trying to get there, sorry, HI. Okay, so K, right, it's it was along the bottom. So,
On page 46.
yeah, 46 at the bottom, or page 5 of 8 at the top. So K, looking to change the language to this occupancy standard is for overnight guests
Yes.
and is not intended to unreasonably limit visitors to the property.
Yep, that was the conversation on last time as well. I think that seems fine.
So this is one you just added?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would replace the use of the, I think it replaces the page 46. Yes, it does. It would replace that.
Yeah.
How does everybody feel about that?
Good.
All right? Okay, so Article 6, limitations. We had originally removed the limitations under recommendation from council, but I feel like the limitations are gonna be important to work with the zoning bylaws. Work with them. So, and again, I don't think that we're in the wrong to put this into our ordinance because we don't have the support of the bylaws. So, A, maximum number of registrations. The town shall issue up to 2 registrations per lot, subject to the provisions of this chapter. The operation of 1 STR on a single lot is permitted. The operation of 2 STRs on a single lot that is hosted is permitted. The operation of 2 STRs on a single lot that is unhosted is subject to permit caps and density reviews by the Development Review Board. 2, the operation of more than 2 STRs is subject to permit caps and density review by the DRB. So, a conversation that we were having is once the ordinance is in place, the registration, finding out exactly what we have, and understanding what the zoning overlays are, because there are certain areas that it would be appropriate to have, I don't know what the number is, but STRs there. But there also might be areas that are not appropriate to have X amount of numbers. So if we can eventually come up with what some of those cap numbers might be, it just might be helpful to keep the sprawl of STRs, or keep them into certain areas, or just make sure that there's not, 10 in one spot, and just a thought on how to
Well, and it seems like the
give it some
zoning
teeth.
bylaw would probably delve more into the details of that too, right? Than what's, or could potentially be more restrictive or more descriptive even.
Descriptive, yeah. Yep. So, and, let's talk it out.
How can you, let me see if I can even get this out of my mug right. If say, five people on a street, 5 different lots, wanted 2 STRs. And we had said, you can't have that many. I mean, that's being unfair to someone, right?
Mhm. The opposite, though, is you have a block that's wiped
Yeah.
out of primary homes,
Yeah.
an entire block.
But how do you do a block by block basis? There's no way to do that because there's zoning districts.
Well, you could do it by zoning districts.
Yeah, so you're never gonna be able to stop a block from becoming STRs.
Well,
it's not gonna work.
Unless, well, if you put a cap on how many could be in that zoning area, you make it difficult for the entire street to be taken up by all STRs. So it's about thinking a little bit ahead and staying on top of what we have and just making sure that it stays balanced. All of this is just about balance. All of it. And I think if we're consistent, if we're clear in our language, we're consistent in our practices, including our registration and our enforcement, then it's fair. It's fair. So it's easy to say, well, that it seems like we're being unfair to people who want to buy something and rent it as a property. Just a property, never live here, never put down any roots, never have the care for the community. Well, sometimes it doesn't make for such a great community. So we can put some language and restrictions in place to keep our communities livable and enjoyable and where we want to be. It's about consistency.
Question. You say subject to permit caps and density review. And so right now, do we have in the zoning bylaw any provisions for that? That cap?
We're working on it.
Okay.
It's a work in progress.
That's why it says
As Kelly likes to say, we're building the plane while we're flying it.
But, okay, because these development, short-term rentals would have to be subject to site plan review or whatever the conditional use or whatever the review would be in order to get there.
Correct.
So that's part of the,
Yes, the big word is subject to.
if it exists. So if this goes through and the DRB, the zoning does not change, then it doesn't, it's moot because it's not required already.
If zoning does not have a provision to address short-term rentals,
Right now, I mean,
I don't know how the DRB would be able to.
they can't.
So the DRB only can act on zoning bylaws. That is it. Like, this ordinance is not a document that they can use to help with their decision making.
Unless
On
it's
some
referenced
things.
in the zoning bylaw, but I normally wouldn't do that. But they can only review certain things that are spelled out in the zoning bylaw right now, you know. Variances, site plan, subdivision, use, excuse me. And that's all they can look at. They can't look at something that's not provided for in a bylaw.
This
So-
statement
so-
would really require zoning to be built up to that. If there's nothing there, then
There's
it,
nothing
like you said,
there.
it's a moot
Right,
point. But
Well, right,
if the zoning,
this without zoning means nothing, which is why the attorney said, don't put it in the ordinance, put it in your zoning. And this is talking about permitting, and if the purpose of this ordinance is to have the registry, the person that you're going to be doing the enforcement for the registry, you're also saying that they are going to be permitting things, but they are not the zoning. So I understand that you're wanting to put some limitations in the ordinance, but I think that the lawyer's advice is there for a reason, and that this will ultimately mean nothing in this ordinance without it being in the zoning bylaws.
It's the cart before the horse
Yes.
conundrum that we have in front of us. And that's why we use the word "it's subject to," and we recognize that that's forward-looking, but it also puts a little bit of a line in the sand or an awareness in an ordinance that you are going to potentially be subject to caps, but not retroactively, I believe. But that, the intention is that they may be there in the future. So caution, it's
But they
a yellow
would be-
flag essentially.
But they would be held to this standard because.
But they won't be because your DRB
Well,
can't.
no, I'm understand, I know what you're saying,
Yeah,
but, so if we omitted this, got it into zoning, zoning gets approved, we add it
I
back
have to go
in.
back and add it
We
in.
can add it back in, and
It's a
it
60-day
would
process.
easily be done.
That
Yes.
would,
Whatever
that
you
is
do.
the
So,
path that legally makes the most sense.
okay, so what we need to do is capture this and meet
Right.
with zoning and see if we can,
so, I mean, I will ask the question if any of them that are not subject to DRB review is worth keeping in. Because an ordinance,
None of them are subject.
Yeah, very
Right.
often is subject to.
They're not even subject to zoning review. You know,
Yeah.
if it's a single-family home and you want to turn it to short-term rental, no permits needed. That's by case law, not by zoning.
Right.
local
And
zoning.
Sharon, the select board is requesting that you put short-term rentals in the new zoning. We need, that's where the limitations need to be.
As you are writing them,
As you're writing them down, yes.
So are we-
as you're just,
Article 6 goes right to
the
that.
version that you're discussing, or,
Oh, parts of what, we-
I
you need a
think,
definition for short-term rentals in there.
yeah,
And then any limitations that we're gonna do anywhere need to be in zoning. That's what Bob Fisher's advice was.
and we've been talking and working with Mimi, so it's
You mean right or lines?
lines.
Okay.
So it's, and I know she's involved with the zoning bylaws, so I feel like if we could all work together, that we could probably whip up some language pretty quickly. I would like to think. Or at least not to overwhelm you with just, you know, piling a big old pile right on top when you're so close you can see the finish line.
well, I was supposed to be reporting that we had, made our decision and accepted the bylaw as is at the moment, and ready for the select board. But, yeah,
Almost,
yeah.
right?
So I would suggest that we take Article 6 and ask that the zoning bylaw, the planning commission try to find a way to get this stuff incorporated into the zoning bylaws.
Agreed.
I'd support that, but then I would also add, for the record, that then, once the bylaws are
Correct.
passed, that we bring this back to the ordinance.
Yep.
And I believe that,
That was it.
that was everything.
Just not to go back over covered ground, but just to mention in the conversation about removing the term
Tourist home?
tourist home, if you find that there's another word that means the same thing, so that everything is represented in your statement, maybe that's an alternative to deleting it, is just finding
Right.
the recognizable word that describes what it's supposed to represent. I don't know what that is, but
I don't either, but
it
I'm
seems
sure
like it
something's out
represents
there.
something.
Right.
I think tourist home is a short-term rental.
yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
that's what it's described.
So,
Right,
yeah,
okay,
so
so,
we'll clean it up.
Alright. We ready to move on?
Good job,
I
you
think-
guys.
yes,
Good job.
Thank you.
thank
So
you.
this will go back to reserved, and it's reserved for
For,
it coming back in the
yes,
future.
yes.
Save a place.
It's a placeholder.
That's why it was put in the beginning. reserved.
Yes.
Reserved.
Yep, no, I mean, you know, you can't kill me for trying. Do I need to make a motion? Do we feel that maybe by next meeting, we might be ready to adopt this?
Yeah.
We have to run by the town attorney.
So once we get have the language changes made, Shane, you'll send
Yeah.
it to Bob?
Well, I'll send it to you guys like I did the last time around,
Okay.
at the same time.
That's great, and then hopefully we can it will be ready before, when's our next meeting?
The 18th.
Wait, it'll be Christmas miracle. Christmas miracle.
And we're really opposed to our work on the bylaw. And at the same time, anything can be inserted, corrected, once it's adopted. I mean, it's not set in stone, other than, meeting the guidelines, of course, but something like the definition of
Right.
tourist home is not, it doesn't have to hold it up.
Right.
It's a very minor thing. We have a couple of those in play as well.
Well, let's try to get some time together.
Yeah.
I think we've experienced the same thing in producing the ordinance in
Yeah.
that it's just like, we just need something so that we can fine tune.
Yeah.
Same thing with getting it approved and
Just different ways of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That becomes meaningful.
So should we pass this motion right here?
I say we just put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, and we'll move on to 10B, discuss interlocal agreement for Mountain Towns Recreation Director position.
So a whole bunch of people went to the last Weston Select Board meeting to talk to them about their signing the original interlocal. And it was a long, emotion-filled discussion on all sides. And at the end of it, they voted to sign the original agreement pending approval from their town attorney
For the 3-year.
for the 3-year. That town attorney is also the town attorney for Land Grove, Peru, and Wenhall,
Who all signed?
who all signed already,
Good.
which is just interesting dynamic. So their attorney and our attorney were supposed to be talking to discuss both the original 3-year agreement and Weston's potentially signing it, or the addendum that Bob Fisher and Merrill were also talking about. Weston saw a draft of the addendum, but we haven't put it before any of the other select boards because we're waiting on Weston to make a decision one way or the other. Apparently, Fisher and Merrill Bent have spoken to each other, and Bob Fisher and I have been playing phone tag since Thursday. So I do not know what their conversation landed on, which is really unfortunate.
When does the Weston Select Board meet again?
Not this week, but next on Tuesday at 7:30 again, I believe.
So they'll likely, hopefully discuss it again then.
I would hope so. Yeah, but I don't know what the two attorneys discussed as the best path forward for everybody. So I don't have any, I know.
I just wonder if that attorney was able to draw on the other towns'
I don't know.
signatures to the agreement.
Right.
That's
There was
all.
something
Right.
singular
I don't,
about.
I don't know, that's the thing.
Right,
I don't know what it is, but yeah. Or the person from Weston representing.
so stay tuned, basically.
Yeah.
I've been
I don't
trying to
think-
get in touch with Bob and we just have not been able to connect, and he apparently wanted it to be a phone conversation and not an email, or I think he would have sent me an email.
But our interest in having,
Right, but Liam is here
Liam
tonight.
is here.
And is on the agenda
Yeah.
and everything.
after having
I mean, we'll move forward one way or the other. It's just a matter of it being under the original 3-year agreement with everybody. Or moving forward with getting everyone to sign the addendum to the original agreement, which lets the other 4 towns who have signed on move forward with a process for Weston to join at a future date and pay retroactively for the months in the fiscal year that they, that have gone by until they have signed. So it's one way or the other, not that there aren't still ways that something could go sideways, so. I would sure like to hear from our attorney.
Yeah.
One way or the other. Even just to have a sense of which path we're on.
I think we should just assume for the best at this point.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here talking on the 18th.
Hopefully it
Maybe
really
Weston
will be
get
a
it
Christmas
together by
miracle
then.
meeting.
So many thoughts and feelings.
Yes,
I'm gonna keep them all inside.
good girl.
Would you like a motion from us that would be done as a pending approval from Weston, or should we just be silent at this point?
Let's wait to see what they say.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I still would love for you to have your executive session with Liam. And I would love for all of that part of the process to move forward. But I guess given where things are, I would not want to advise you to make a decision without the town attorney having shared.
Okay.
Alright.
Thank you.
Can you have a special meeting if I hear from him like tomorrow?
Probably.
I'll be around.
I mean, Tom's just gonna be shooting rats, so.
Have an emergency.
Can we do it at
We could do it at the transfer station.
That sounds like recreation time.
That's right, that'll be a new offering.
Have a marksmanship class.
I can't even get it, thank you.
I mean, I say that somewhat jokingly, but that is
Yeah, if you
also,
need to.
that is also a serious question. I mean, I waiting 2 more weeks,
Feels too long.
Feels-
Painful.
it's,
Yeah, I know it.
it's
I know it.
both because like Liam is ready to go and we are ready to have his assistance and we are, you know, like there's an awful lot that everybody wants to get started in on working on and and again, it will move forward one way or the other. It's just without knowing which way it's.
I mean, I could, yes, I could, yes, I could.
Unless someone knows Bob well enough to, you know, call him at home on a Monday night at 7:40.
Not it.
I got his cell.
You wanna go call it?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
I'd be still in the office.
I think you just let us know if you hear from him and,
Yeah.
and if we need to all pull together for whatever reason, we'll try to make it happen. Right?
Yeah.
Hopefully by now.
Yeah. I mean, if that's something that you're all willing to do,
Yeah, sure.
I would leave tonight at least, be able to sleep.
I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
It feels to me like it's, all the intentions are
Right,
gathered, they just,
right.
I mean, there's no other way to explain what's going on. It just can't happen, even though it's going to.
Yeah.
We got this far.
Alright. Should we move on to 10C then?
Yes.
Consider amendments to the personnel policy.
Are we supposed to approve this one?
No, I didn't make a recommended motion because it's 20 some odd pages. We were looking at this last fall, a year ago,
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
and other things got in the way, but now I've got some freed up time so I can go back and jump on those things that I put on the shelf. So these are items that we've been discussing. This is draft number.
Right. And I didn't know who L or JM was and the other person, SQ. Oh, you're Shane.
Yeah.
Who's JM?
That's a person at,
Jill.
yeah, at Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
An HR specialist?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had them help us out on this, and so they were very helpful, and, you know, and since the last version of this, two things I did insert is if you go to your page 57 of 95, on the bottom, that is item, I guess 20E.
Yeah.
It actually deals with me, in that it says for employees mandated to participate in federal Medicare program due to the number of town employees, provisions shall be made to maintain coverage for family members provided in paragraph B above. Because I'm still trying to work this out, and Tina and I have been talking about it. If an employer has less than 20 employees, I'm mandated to go into Medicare. If you have more, don't have to. You can wait
And you stay on the employer's.
Yes, so we're trying to figure that out, and, you know, is it full-time employees, is it part-time employees, are you guys employees? So I'm just trying to, through that, just make it clear that if I have to go in that direction, Medicare, that there's coverage for my spouse, that sort of thing. But other things in, actually, page 59, this is the difference from the last version. Vacation leave, I looked to bump that up in that.
Why isn't it called PTO? Why are we still calling
Tina,
it?
I want it to be called PTO.
We can-
Yeah, this is ancient language, guys.
We can go in that direction. That's paid time off for sick, vacation,
It's all
personal,
one good
everything.
pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No reason why we couldn't do that. It'd probably be a lot easier to administer.
It'll be a lot easier to track.
I mean, I don't know how significant a change it is for you from an accounting point of view or all those sorts of things, but it is much more common these days to call it.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it could be a second step, maybe just
Right.
get the
Do what
stuff
you need to
done,
do
because
now.
there's so many other things in there. Get that stuff done and then work on that, because I know there was some parts of the Vermont sick leave rules that are a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Can I go back to the E thing though? Can we have the Vermont person look at that and just make sure it's
Yeah.
It's your insert, but I would like them to sort of like wave a hand and say that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My one question here is, it says earned sick time will not be carried over, then the comment says it has to be carried over.
You can only carry 3 days over, 3 days over.
Alright?
You get 5 and you can carry 3.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that one that says it can't be
I
carried
know,
over should be
Josh was
stricken.
confused
Which
by
one is
that
that?
too.
Page 60 in the bottom.
So,
Does it say what you want it to say?
When,
The
I don't know.
The comment says under Vermont earned sick time law, it must carry forward unless provided in a lump sum. That's the comment from VLCT. So I think that just does not need to be in there.
Yeah,
that's where it's saying some of the sick time rules are not as.
yeah, we had modified this a few years ago because we had to go in 40 hours of sick time from 24.
Yeah.
And that earned sick time thing was right out of, from the state.
Yeah.
So that needs some more, I need to relook at that.
There's
And-
one thing I noticed.
And also on page 59, I was getting at vacation leave, changing that up some from a recruitment standpoint would be.
Is that more typical? I mean, you bumped it up a lot, but.
Yeah, 2 weeks in the first year, 2 weeks is quite standard.
Yeah.
And it could be maybe the first through the fourth year, or fifth year, whatever it is, could be
10.
It could be a 10, and then you jump up, instead of the second year, maybe you could jump up in a different year.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. So I just threw some numbers at this for the sake of discussion, because I think in particular, trying to hire someone and then only realizing they have 1 day of 1 week of vacation might be tough.
Yep.
But there are a number of changes in here, one of which had to do with, going back to really the first page, was the piece about elected
I saw that.
employees.
Yeah.
Is that required? I mean, we pretty much have to say
Well,
that.
what it had said is that this personal policy applies to full-time and part-time employees of the town, except elected
Right,
officers.
and then there's a whole nother section below, somewhere way down that talks about elected officials.
Right, so this says, and this is based upon VLCT, and there's an attachment, basically a separate agreement, because there was some issues
Between
about.
select board members and
And
the
the
town.
elected officials, yes.
Or yeah, that's what I was saying.
Because we're not technically covered
Right,
under
Yeah.
the policy.
right, but anyway.
And there is a model thing from the LCT.
Yeah.
Right,
So that's- yeah.
and so that was kind of the impetus for some of it, at some point. But other things are like harassment, discrimination, things of that nature. So something to, read between now and the next meeting. And,
No, it's good work, and glad you were able to pull it out and dust it off.
I guess I realized it, but until I read it, I didn't realize how harassing people can be.
All right, we'll come back to that next meeting.
Yep,
Yeah.
We're moving on to 10D. Ratify 11/20/2023 decision to approve first and third class liquor licenses and an outside consumption permit for Londonderry Cafe and Tavern LLC doing business as Jake's Restaurant and Tavern.
I move to ratify the board's 11/20/23 decision to approve first and third class licenses and an outdoor consumption permit for Londonderry Cafe and Tavern LLC, doing business as Jake's Restaurant and Tavern related to the property located at Mountain Marketplace, 5800 Vermont Route 100.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item 11, new business. 11A, consider contract extension for winter maintenance of Pingree and Memorial Parks in the Town Hall parking lot.
well, we thought it was a 3-year contract, it was a 2. And that's just the way life is sometimes. And so I gave a call to Levi, and we talked about his willingness to extend his services for another year. Given the inflation that we've all experienced, it's clear that a different number would be appropriate from the previous year. So I had recommended that we go to $1,500 for Pingree Park and $75 for the other 2 locations, which are Memorial Park entrance and the Town Hall parking lot.
Why are we plowing Memorial Park in the winter?
It's just
Not
the entry.
whole thing, it's just the
Just
entry,
the
entrance.
so you can
People
park,
hike.
yeah,
Oh, they
people
do.
snowshoe and hike on the trail that's in there.
Yeah.
So it's just enough room for 2 cars to park,
Get 'em off the
so
road.
you could walk in.
Got it.
That was added last year.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the addendum, it actually is in the, should be in here.
I take it those new amounts are good with you, Levi?
What's that? Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
That's fine. As long as everybody's happy.
Anyone-
The, at the town hall, is that lift gonna stay there all winter?
No, it's gonna be replaced by a bigger one this winter. It's got wheels,
All right.
so no,
Okay.
it won't be all winter, they'll be working on the cupola, starting this next week.
Okay. So when I plow and then they move and I come back and plow, do I charge for another full plowing? What do we do?
That's a good question, I don't know.
Because it's just time of me coming back twice.
Right.
I know that's
On the
gonna-
lift.
Right.
Well, it's a seasonal price.
Right. I don't really care.
We'll have them work work around it.
Okay.
I don't wanna get, if they wanna pay for a
Right,
second one,
fine.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Is there any snow removal in their contract?
No.
Probably not, right? I know that's kind of a sticky thing this time of year with contracts.
Yeah, right.
And they may
And it
put
makes a
in
big difference for.
Yeah, they may put in a dumpster, I don't know how that's gonna work.
Right,
We did last year.
right.
They could be responsible for removing the snow around their equipment,
Absolutely.
including
Yeah.
the dumpster though. Maybe they want to contract extra time for you.
Right.
That's something to be figured out at a different time though. So, anyone care to make this motion?
Oh, sure.
I move to extend the term of the service contract between the town and Dryden's Outdoor Incorporated for plowing and sanding of Pingree Park, the entryway of Memorial Park, and the town hall parking lot to include this winter at a seasonal cost of $1,500 for Pingree Park and a per event cost of $75 for the other two locations, and authorize the town administrator to amend the previously approved contract with the vendor to reflect these changes. The original contract was authorized by the board on November 15, 2021, and an amendment authorized on December 5th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for waiting all night.
Yes.
I'm learning. A lot of stuff going on in here, I like it.
Alright, moving on to 11B, consider changes to land use review fees. There's a letter in here from
Yeah.
Will, somewhere.
Yeah, and actually Will asked me to hand out
77.
a revised version.
Better now.
And these he's also mentioned that these are not for adoption at this point. These are really in anticipation of the new zoning bylaw. And so it's just kind of a
77?
sneak preview. There's an extra copy if need be. Oh, you can. And I think we'll put together a memo also.
Sit down. Sit down.
Yeah, and there is a 11B.
Right, and what I included in the meeting packet is the decision from June 22 when new rates were applied, and most, if not all, went up. Anyway, so again, these are really primarily for the new zoning ordinance when it comes out.
So you don't want action on it right now?
I asked, he said no actions
Okay.
at this point, because some of it doesn't even apply yet.
So it's something that we can review and you can, and after that when we need to. Moving on to 11C. Consider participation in municipal technical assistance program through the Wyndham Regional Commission.
So I read this and I would hope that we are able to jump on board. I don't know how. They're on a real tight time frame for this, but I think we should at least try to be counted for it.
Yeah, there's a memo from Wyndham Regional, and there's all kinds of things they can help us with. We don't need a whole lot of detail on what we would be looking for.
And we don't have to identify what category we think we want to participate in, do we at this point? We just sort of say, hands up, we want to be counted.
This is what you need by Tuesday, December 19th, is whether or not there are possible town projects. You kind of need a little, probably.
He said just a
Not too
couple
much.
sentences. I think, yeah.
Flooding mitigation.
I don't need a lengthy
projects alone.
description, a sentence or two will suffice.
Yeah, basically,
It's called climate change mitigation.
housing, community recovery, any of that, we can,
Yeah.
pretty simple.
I think the climate change mitigation and resilience is probably key, don't you? Or it's one of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
And we're going to be working on
Any
it,
of the
so
above.
even if you don't have
Yeah,
details yet. And Wyndham Regional is aware of that, so it's.
yep. So can I move?
Yep.
I move to participate in the municipal technical assistance program for the following town initiatives. Any of the ones identified there? A through E?
Basically, yeah.
Wastewater, housing, recovery, climate change, economic development.
I mean, I think they
Yeah,
all
they all
apply.
apply to us.
Yeah.
So A through E, as noted on Chris Campany's letter.
Unless we feel that some of these are covered by other things more thoroughly. Is there anything
But I
that
would
would
let-
more help with?
I would let these folks figure out which ones there may be overlap and which ones are not. I don't think I could draw those lines carefully.
This is just the first step. I think it's okay if
Yeah.
it
It
gets
says
pared
there's gonna
down
be an assessment.
in the
Yeah.
future.
Yep.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to 11D, approve.
Do you want me to respond to that? Does someone, a board member want to respond? Anybody else?
This week.
You can respond to stuff.
I mean, I'm happy to work with you if you want to draft stuff. And you want to run it by me, you want to do that?
I'm actually going to be out of town Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll be able to work a little bit. But, won't, I'll give it,
Give it a shot and I'll be your second reader.
Moving on to 11D, approve preventative maintenance agreement for the town office generator.
Another one of
Good
those
idea.
that makes sense.
One more year?
Well,
At one
I
time?
mean, you recall, we bought that 5 years ago, this week, it was installed. And we had talked about doing a once-a-year PM, and
When it was
and
new, it
after
made
year
sense.
5, go to 2 a year. I don't know if you want to do that or not do that, but, you know, the difference in cost was, it's in there almost. $640 versus $1,050 to do 2. Plus, they are recommending, based on...
This load test or whatever.
Yeah, so I didn't know what the heck that kind of load. Well, I first was looking at the program years 2, and it says the generator building load test. I said, well, that's great, we're gonna get it for nothing. Well, not nothing, but for much less, but it's a whole different animal. They have to bring in this wagon of some sort, and they run the generator at full bore. Because right now, it's a large unit. Is it 50 kW? I'm not sure how big it is. But,
Yeah.
It's way
Yeah.
larger than what
And
we're
it
using.
may-
And we only
runs-
use 10.
yeah, at best, yeah. And so,
Maximum, yeah.
there's a thing called wet stacking, and we've seen it in the past during cold weather where it'll blow some major smoke out of there, and that could be part of it. So they're recommending this test. We did get them to suggest that we could do that with one of the annuals, if we do go to 2, in which case we'll save money on transportation and things, you know, a couple $100. They're recommending it, we should probably do it.
I would say do it.
We're sunk with it, it doesn't run.
Yeah, and
we
I
don't want
think
that
that
to happen.
It runs every Monday morning.
Yeah.
the reason that it's a 50 kW and we only need 10 is with a projection of usage for here. There was an elevator and
Yeah.
all types of
Which we're
things
gonna
that
get.
needed to be set up for it. Yeah, right. So eventually, the capacity will match, but
Yeah.
being underused now, it could be problematic for,
It's the same size as the one at Flipper.
Yeah, it's oversized.
yeah,
I mean, it really is, but
yeah.
Anyone care to make that motion?
Oh, sure. I move to accept the preventative maintenance agreement from Brookfield Service for an annual service of the town office generator. Which one am I going to do here?
2 times.
2 times a year, and to include a one-time load bank test at a cost of $1,316, and authorize the town administrator to execute an agreement or the agreement on behalf of the board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
11E, consider appointments to the Development Review Board to fill vacancies.
Are both these guys coming on?
Andrew Rakir was appointed last month or 2 months, I think last month, as an alternate. But we had a position open up because someone left the community. So he's interested in stepping up from an alternate position to a regular position. And then we also had the other gentleman put in an application for appointment.
As the alternate.
Is this the same Robert Trask?
Yeah.
It's George Trask's son. He lives up at
Okay.
But
Stevens.
It's not
It's
Bob,
He's
it's
Bob.
Robert.
He's Robert. He goes by Bob too. He's his nephew.
That's great.
Yeah.
You
I
should
know,
have
but
some nice looking
Always do a
references.
double take when I see him.
Anyone can make that motion?
I move to appoint Andrew Rakir as a regular member of the Development Review Board for term extending to September 30th, 2024 to fill a vacancy.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
And I move to appoint Robert Trask as an alternative member of the Development Review Board for a 1-year term extending to September 30th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Me.
Martha.
All right, moving on to 11F, consider request by Chester Snowmobile Club for use of town property for snowmobile trails.
Is this just
They ask us every
year? That's
Every
great.
year.
That's good. Yep.
And I,
Hi,
Thank you for being here.
yes.
Any questions?
And for the record, you are?
Louis Luxemburger.
I don't think so.
No.
Hopefully we'll get a lot of snow.
That's where we need to snow,
Yep.
not this stuff.
All right, anyone can make that motion?
I would move to approve the request from the Chester Snowmobile Club to use a portion of both Lowell Lake Road and Mansfield Lane for snowmobiling between December 15th, 2023 and April 15th, 2024, and authorize the town administrator to execute a Vermont Association of Snow Travelers Incorporated landowner permission form on behalf of the town.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Let us know.
Jim seconded?
Yeah.
You did. Good.
Item 12, executive session, appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee for 1 VSA 313A3.
Hi, guys.
Good
night.
Good night, Paul.